Hey there, alligators. Hey there, alligators. I am live. So I wanted to talk about natural family planning tonight on a live stream. I want to do this new... Everyone was requesting that I do more live streams, and you guys wanted me to do an AAMAA live stream. And so I decided to do something closer to a Ask Allie Marie Anything About, and it will just have different topics. And I'm planning on doing actually another one later this week in regard to like NFP or Catholic sex or whatever kind of comes forward as maybe a expansion on what we talk about tonight. But I do want to talk about NFP. It is NFP Awareness Week because it is, oh gosh, how many years has it been now? Is it 60 years that it was published in 1968, July 25th. I need Alec here. My alligator is only here on the Saturday live streams. But it was July 25th that Pope Paul VI released Humanae Vitae, which is what gave Catholics a lot of what we believe about procreation, about what it means to have a holy marriage, what holy sex looks like. And it has just been a journey coming from not being Catholic, thinking I was going to be taking birth control eventually, to now like practicing this way to not only space children, but also to achieve pregnancy. So feel free to ask any questions. Good morning, Sean. I'm glad you're here. Welcome from Australia. And just ask me any questions that you have. I'm going to just kind of dive into some general natural family planning ordeals, but if you have any questions about what I'm talking about or something that's like really heavy on your mind about it, feel free to just chime in and then I'll jump into the comments and deal with things there. So natural family planning, a huge question that people ask is, isn't natural family planning birth control? Like, how is it any different? You are still like, it's like natural contraception. And so the thing within that is contraception is literally making something like there is an artificial barrier. Like in the definition, it gives several different examples of what contraception is, whether that's the pill, whether it's an IUD, whether it would be, a little, like a way that the body is modifying the hormones within the female body to prevent a baby from implanting in the uterus. So it's a way that that not only Catholics, as I had said, can postpone pregnancy for grave reasons, but they can also use it to achieve pregnancy. So when Pope Paul VI actually released this, like there is this whole segment of medicine called NAPRO technology. It stands for Natural Procreative Technology. And what that means is that Pope Paul VI's research, they actually look into how to make your fertility work for you. Like the Pope that wrote this encyclical that's telling you, okay, if you have to, like responsible parenthood, that is what Humanae Vitae is all about. It's about how to be a responsible parent. How do you space out your children? Like nature has a natural way of doing that. A woman's fertility doesn't immediately return after giving birth. Like nature naturally spaces out children, but the same Pope that released this encyclical stating, these are the reasons why you can abstain and why you would avoid like having sex during your fertile period. They have also based this huge foundational research in efforts to help women get and remain pregnant. So to say that natural family planning as a whole is like the same as contraception is just backwards and doesn't quite work, because you can't use contraception to try to get pregnant. Like it's used for one thing and one alone, whereas natural family planning is used for both sides. So I'm just gonna say hi to a couple of people. So Devoted, hello, good to see you. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, but I like it. It's a lot simpler than having to edit a ton. So Bao, I miss you too. It's been a while, but everything is good. Hi, Roberto. Good to see you. I hope your job's going well and everything there is working out as you had hoped. So, Sean, I see your question here about how does one avoid a contraceptive mindset when using NFP? So there are some Catholics out there that will argue that it is impossible to use NFP with a contraceptive mindset. And I am one that leans toward, I think it's possible. Like, I think that intentions matter. The other day I had heard, there was a woman who had a cyst in her uterus or something, and the doctor told her that it could cause infertility. And so she was asking, well, I've been told it works kind of like an IUD, like a baby couldn't implant, so do I have to get this removed now? Like, what is my moral obligation as a Catholic? And ultimately, the intention there matters. Like, if the reason that somebody wasn't going to get something like that removed was because they couldn't afford it at the time, they didn't have the time to take off their job, they, it just wasn't going to work out because there's a newborn in the house and, it's just not going to work to be able to go to the hospital and have the procedure, but if the intention behind it is, well, I don't want to have kids for another 2 years anyway, so I guess I'll just wait until the 2 years is up and then I'll have it removed because then I can just have kids then and not have to worry about it for now. I would say that is allowing something that we are aware of, a knowledge that we're held accountable to be used as a contraceptive mindset. So while NFP in and of itself is not contraceptive, the mindset of contraception is, I do not want a baby right now. We cannot have one. It's just not okay. And I think that the contraceptive mindset ends up getting entered when people want to have sex as much as they can. When Alec and I were seriously trying to abstain, they call that TTA in this world. There's TTA, TTC, and TTW. So TTA, trying to abstain, TTC, trying to conceive, and TTW is just trying to whatever. Could get pregnant, could not. I'm not really charting. We're just doing whatever we want. So when we were seriously TTA and trying to abstain because he was still in school, we were not sure where we were going to be living, it just wasn't going to be a stable foundation, we didn't have sex more than probably once every 2 months. So, and that was because we were just so severely we cannot have a child right now. And I think that it was there are two different ways to approach that. Someone can approach it with a really hard heart, which I did for a while. I wanted to be open to life, and Alec knew that it just wasn't the right time or the right season for our marriage. And so there are different aspects that we can learn to show our spouse love and affection in a way that's not through sex. So we can go bowling together, we can watch a movie and cuddle on the couch, we can, play chess, do a puzzle, we can go out on double dates, we can host dinner parties, we can do all of these other things that show each other that we love each other in a way that's not that sexual union, which is part of what makes us human. We are not animals. I mean, if you have a female dog in heat, you are not allowed to take her to a park. Some of them allow it if they're on a leash, but even then, it's still very frowned upon if you have a female dog in heat that you take her out, because male dogs go crazy. They cannot control themselves. And a part of what makes us human is that we do have control over that sexual drive, over that sexual impulse. We aren't a slave to our instincts. We aren't a slave to do everything that we feel that we want to do in that moment. And so I think that NFP really helps us grow. It's helped me grow on that walk to holiness, because it's just helped me be able to be more prudent and more submissive and accept that my way isn't always the right way. And there are just a lot of aspects with it that if we allow it to, it can really help us grow as a Catholic, as a Christian, and as a spouse. So I hope that helps to answer that question. Kevin, you're fly fishing? Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're here. I'm really, really glad. Blessed to be. You said, that I've not had children yet, so it's hard to fully understand. But what is What is your understanding on Catholic women who have terrible pregnancies or births or postpartum depression / psychosis? So, yes, I have not had children yet. I am susceptible to postpartum depression. Alec and I are actively trying and praying for a healthy baby. But so my understanding as far as practicing NFP and whether or not like if there is like a genuine fear of getting pregnant and everything like that, I wish that I could speak on it more, because I do like to speak from personal experience opposed to like, oh, well, this study says this and this study says that. So my understanding is that it's difficult. Like, I would imagine that it was kind of like reverse for when I really wanted children and my husband was like, no, we can't. I could imagine if like I was the male and then the female, you have to come to a point of agreement with your spouse. Like the Bible talks about, do not withhold sex from your spouse unless it's agreed upon. And so like if there's a problem with like a disagreement of whether or not more children should be had, I think that seeing a Catholic priest or a Catholic counselor could be helpful in reconciling that. And but I don't know if I could speak too much on that, just because I don't know. I don't know how I would feel, but the gist of it would be that under no circumstances would the birth control or using condoms or any type of barrier method that interrupts that full union with the spouse could be good, because once you introduce the contraception, that ends up putting a barrier between the husband and wife, and what that can do is it can cause a disassociation with the spouse, so that the other spouse would turn, or you could turn to other things such as pornography, such as another person. I think that there's, you talk about like emotional affairs. I think that there's a really big piece of the spouses being present with each other and being able to talk about those like really difficult things and being able to work through those together. And I think that through NFP, like they're both suffering in that, like, and we share in that suffering together. And so I think that a big part of that is just to be open and honest with your spouse about how you're feeling and like what it looks like. But there are some methods that are more like effective, I guess, in postponing pregnancy. Like, some people like Creighton, some people like Marquette, some people like symptothermal. And the biggest thing would be to not have sex even in phase, there are 3 phases, right? There's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. I would just say the biggest thing would be only to have sex in phase 3. Like when my husband and I were seriously TTA, like for our reasons, we only had sex in phase 3. And I think that there's just a level of compromise that comes forward with that in spouses. So, Chicken Pigeon, that's a fun name. What should you know about NFP as a single man? Well, you are more attracted to women when they're ovulating. And I just think as a whole, knowing like when you're married and like having that awareness of condoms, I think that there is, because when you use a condom, there's actually a physical barrier. Like you talk about the emotional barrier with artificial hormones, but the physical barrier with condoms. But as a single man, other than being able to be like, in tune with your mom or sisters, I don't know if there's much that you would really need to know. I don't know if you're dating or planning to date or if you're thinking about the priesthood. But I think that it's like reading Humanae Vitae is paramount. There are a few books out there. Christopher West had one that's about theology of the body. He like answers questions. It's in a Q&A format. That's also really good. There's a book called Holy Sex. The biggest thing is, especially as a single man, pornography is really off limits. And I know that's not really NFP, and that could probably be a different Ask Me Anything about pornography. But I think that just paying attention to how a husband and wife are to come together is really the biggest thing. So, hey, Crunchy Catholics, welcome. Let's see here. Molly asks, do you use an app to track your cycle-chart? And RCIA, very new to all of this. So Molly, I do. When my husband and I were engaged, we took a class online through ccli.org, which taught the symptothermal method. So that means that you take your basal body temperature every single morning at the exact same time, because when you're asleep, your body temperature drops to the lowest it's going to be. And when you first wake up, before you get out of bed, before you do anything, you take the temperature. And so then they have peak days, is what it's called. So you can ovulate 3 days before or after your peak day, which means that the temperature has risen. Oh gosh, it's been a while since I've done symptothermal. It's like 0.5 degrees, I think. It's higher. It's 0.5 degrees higher than the previous 3 temperatures or previous 5 temperatures. And so you look for that. And so they had an app called Cycle GoPro, which is what I used. It came with a membership with the classes, and so I used that for quite a while. It tracked your temperature, and then you also track cervical mucus, and then you also have the option, like your cervix opens a little bit every time that you ovulate, and so, or it doesn't open, I'm sorry. I never did cervix checks. It's soft or it's hard. So when it's soft, that means that you're more fertile, and when it's hard, you're not, I think. I don't know. But so classes will help teach you all of those like finite details, especially for symptothermal. I never did cervix checks, but I did monitor cervical mucus, which thickens, like it's almost like an egg white around the time that you ovulate, and then which Creighton method only tracks mucus. Like that one is you wipe before you go to the bathroom, see if there's any cervical mucus on the toilet paper, and then after you go to the bathroom you check again. And so there are a few different methods, but right now I use the Kindara app. It looks like this. Let's see if we can get it on there. It's that one in the bottom with the little triangle. It's called Kindara, Kindara. I can type it in here. And so it's really helpful. It's more, I tend to track more Marquette now. I use dipsticks because we are trying to conceive, and so I'm really monitoring my LH levels, which is a luteinizing hormone, which indicates that I will ovulate within 24 to 48 hours after I get a positive. So there are so many different methods, and there is actually a Facebook group. It's called NFP Catholic Style. Also typing into the box there. It is so helpful. So many women are on there just being open and honest about what NFP is looking like for them. There are addressing that question for Blessed to Be. You know, there are women on there that you could ask that question, and there are plenty of women that are willing to share their personal experience. If you want to ask a question anonymously, like you can send it to the admin will post it anonymously. Like it has so many good resources in there to be able to track and see the different cycles. But so Kindara is my favorite. It's the most straightforward for me for how I track, because I kind of do a combination of symptothermal and Marquette, and it's what works for me for my body, and every body is a little different. So it's very fun. Devoted, the heat causes it. About the dogs, we say the dog is in heat, meaning she's bleeding, like she's fertile, like it's essentially that's when she's ovulating. And so she bleeds, and that's the only time that she can get pregnant. So they just call it in heat. And so when it's that time, it's like every 9 months the dogs go into heat. And that means that's if you want to breed dogs, that's when you want to bring them together. So it's a similar thing with women, only our cycles are shorter. Like we don't have a 9 month, we don't ovulate once every 9 months. We ovulate once a month, approximately. Once every 28 days is the average, so. Justo, what did you say? My awesome wife has blessed me with 3 kiddos, but she told me that for the next one, it would be my turn. How can I answer this humorously person? Jokes aside, thanks for your... Oh gosh. Just tell her that the Catholic Church doesn't support sex changes. I don't know. That's funny though. In Italy, it's 2 a.m. Well, welcome. It's a good night there then. Thanks for coming. Postpartum depression. Yeah, Crunchy. So Crunchy Catholics is posting an NFP video later this week too. If you do end up posting about postpartum depression and that, I don't know if you're planning to or not, but that would be good. Contraception cause emotional barriers. Yes. It's saying, here, have all of me except my fertility. Like, it's saying, here, I'm going to do the most intimate thing that two people can do, but I'm going to withhold this one thing from you. And even if that is in, like, mutual agreement to be like, well, we don't want to have babies right now, that's stealing the fertility from both of them then. That's saying, I love all of you except this part. Like, I love all of you, but the fact that if we have sex without this artificial contraception in place, that we could potentially have a baby, like, that's too much. Like, give me all of you except that part. Like, so yes, it does put an emotional barrier because there is not a full level of giving. Like, there is always going to be that part of the body that you are withholding from your spouse or from, sex outside of marriage right now, like from your significant other, but sex outside of marriage is, again, totally different topic. So we'll just focus on here. Seek women when they're ovulating. Only if you're married, devoted. Only seek women when they're ovulating if you're married. All right. Chicken Pigeon. Can you... I'm going to do that every time I see your name. Can you do an Ask Me Anything on Catholic dating? Yeah, I could. I don't have a ton of experience. The majority of my dating life was not Catholically. But yeah, Alec and I did date pretty well. We had some, stuff because of our histories, but yeah, so I could probably do that. All right, Crunchy, got a tough question. What would you say to someone who would feel that the only reason to use NFP would be for grave reasons? Grave being life-threatening or starvation. I would say that they need to read Humanae Vitae. Like, the Catechism talks about how if you are in financial strain or if you are, even with, postpartum depression, or if you just have a struggle or you're just not emotionally grounded enough, that's where, I would reference responsible parenthood. That Humanae Vitae says it so many times. Responsible parenthood. And so we are called to use NFP to be responsible parents. I think that that's the main thing that I would focus on, just because to say, no, you won't die if you have a baby and you just you want to be able to live in a house with 4 bedrooms, you should downsize your house and have 3 bedrooms. You can have 3 kids in a room and they can share bunk beds and they can do this. I think that that's extremist, and I think that it's not realistic. I think that we, as humans, we are sinful by nature, and there are levels of, not even to do with the sinful nature, I guess. We're just human. We have basic intrinsic needs. And if a family has 8 children, and the woman's only 34 or 35, and she still has fertile years left, and they're just we don't have the space, we are just emotionally drained, but the husband, makes $200,000, $300,000 a year and has plenty of money to afford another child, and the woman is still she doesn't have a thin uterus or whatever else, no health complications, they are not required to have more children. The church does not view women as baby making machines. We are worthy of respect, and our input matters on every level. So I would probably focus on those points, that the only reason to use NFP would be for super grave reasons, would be that the life-threatening or starvation is just that, they're super grave. They're not just they're grave. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope that helps. And cervix opens too. Yeah, I don't know enough about the cervix to really talk about it. Living like Claire, well, you're here now. So let me know any of your questions. You can always look back at any of the other posts. Please. Chicken Pigeon says NFP is just a tool. It can be used poorly, or it can be used correctly. Therefore, that person who is talking to you probably doesn't know much about NFP. Someone could know about NFP. It's the Catholic version of NFP, though. I think that that's just a really important distinction to make, that Catholics practice NFP different than somebody in the secular world would. So, in the secular world, NFP is still better than contraception, because contraception is not good for the environment. You talk about women peeing out all these hormones, and then downstream from sewage plants, fish are actually changing sex. It's supposed to be a 1-to-1 ratio, and they're finding 5-to-1, 10-to-1 ratios of male fish. And so, or a female fish, and there's only one male to every 10. And like, just, it's crazy how these hormones, and I personally honestly wonder if the hormones in birth control are not affecting this increase of gay, transgender, of the LGBTQ community. Like, if a woman doesn't realize she's pregnant and she's taking birth control, these artificial hormones are reaching the fetus, the embryo, the baby, like all of these things. And then suddenly, you know, they're 6 months, or not 6 months, but, you know, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks pregnant, and this baby has already undergone, like, the entire brain, like the neural tube and everything is already formed. That's why it's so important to take folic acid before you're trying to even get pregnant, because those first 2 weeks are so paramount to development. So if somebody's on birth control, I don't see how those hormones in it couldn't be affecting the baby and how it would develop to be producing its own hormones when you're introducing it to artificial hormones in the first place. But that's something, if I were to go for a doctorate, I think that would probably be one that I would want to do a research study on, because that one is one that intrigues me so deeply. I want to know. Supreme Crusader, how do women deal with the fact that usually their libido is highest during ovulation when they have to avoid sex when using NFP? Yes, exactly. Like, and it goes the same way for men, because men are most attracted to women when they're ovulating. And so how do you deal with it? I mean, it's rough, but at the same time, you deal with it by getting out of the house. You deal with it by going bowling, by doing a puzzle, by, like, exercising the self-control that is given to us by God. Again, we are not animals. We do not have to give in to every instinct. Like, we can have a strong impulse to do something, just like someone who has been addicted to pornography for years and they're trying to quit will have a strong impulse to masturbate and look at the pornography. Like, there is something inside of us that if we pray for it and we're asking for God's guidance and He is at the center of our relationship and sex is not, God can do amazing things. Like, that's the biggest thing with the Catholic style of NFP, is that we're putting God in control of our family. We're saying we're open to life, but for X, Y, and Z, we need to postpone right now, or for X, Y, and Z, we'd really like a baby right now, and we're open to welcoming one. But God is that center. It's not about sex. It's about life. It's about health and emotions and love and true love, you know, not this impulsive, oh, I'm elated, I'm so in love. Like, it's genuine love. It's that choice. You're choosing that person. And to go to that responsible parenthood piece of saying, okay, I really want to have sex right now, but we cannot have a baby. And so we better go bowling or go putt-putt or go somewhere where we are out in public because I'm not going to make it, you know, and then you just say, okay, and then the feeling subsides and then it's fine. And, you know, you just take it 1 minute at a time. You know, maybe you pray the rosary together. Like, everybody has their own thing that they have with their spouse that you two will find together, that you just will be able to do that. So, it's 7 p.m. in Colombia. Well, welcome. Yeah, you're not that far from me then. It's 8:30 now here. Hey, Amanda, how are you? I am the worst at writing back. I am so sorry. Your letter is literally right behind me on my desk. So I'm sorry that I haven't written you. It is on my list, my long list. Crunchy, old school, low res video on my old channel talking about how to track fertility. If anyone needs it, let me know. Hope this is okay. Of course that's okay to post. Yeah, that would be great. I definitely do still recommend the NFP Catholic Style Facebook group. Like, there are just so many women on there that are posting their charts being like, hey, I don't get this. Like, what does this look like to you guys? I'm so confused about my temp rise. Why do I have 2 this month? And, like, I'm not getting a positive LH test. Like, am I not ovulating? And I'm so confused. When can we have sex? Like, there are so many posts like that about tracking, and so many knowledgeable women and teachers that are there that are just available to do that. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you're not a part of it already. Disclaimer, I do post sometimes, so just, but yeah, nobody cares. Like, everybody's just so open about everything in it. Thomas Brand, you ask if I've read Venerable Fulton Sheen's book, 3 to Get Married. I have it. I have not read it. I have lots of books that I would love to read eventually, but have not read it. We got it actually at a marriage counseling retreat that we went to, marriage prep retreat. So I haven't been able to read it yet, but I think I actually have it on a CD too. I think. I'd have to look. What stuck out to you in that? And then you can comment that, and then I'll read it in a bit. Joe Cool, you ask, have you always believed in God, always been atheist? My rational brain has never let me believe in God, despite my heart feeling very drawn to Christianity lately. Any advice? I think that would have to be a different live stream and video. Have I always believed in God, though? I was agnostic through college, so I didn't always believe in the Christian God. I have plenty of videos, though. My whole conversion story is on a Lent playlist if you look on my main page. But yes, I would love to chat about that another time. Monkey Crunchy says they've done monkey studies where they gave female monkeys contraceptives and male monkeys acted in homosexual ways. As soon as they were off, monkeys resumed natural love behavior. I have read that study also, and yes, it's amazing. Like, yeah, is just how everything plays out in humanity too. Like, you want to talk about putting all these women on birth control, and then we're like, oh, everyone's this way now. But Sean, you say, if grave reasons are present, could, or more accurately, should a practicing couple use NFP to indefinitely delay pregnancy? For example, life-sustaining long-term medication. Yes. Like, I mean, they could. Should they? I mean, I try not to should anybody. Like, oh, you should be acting this way. It's more, this is why the church teaches this, and this is how the Catholic Church would teach that we, I guess, should act. But, like, I mean, they could I know women that are on a medication, like, for their thyroid or for other things that it would cause birth defects, and they cannot come off of it. So, delaying indefinitely, yes. Like, there are medications that, like a woman who has PCOS or like endometriosis, doctors will naturally say, you need to go on birth control. And I would highly recommend any woman who is told that they have to be on birth control to go see a NAPRO doctor. It's natural procreative technology. They have studied this. They know PCOS, they know endometriosis, they know natural ways to cure it, because contraception the artificial stuff has so many impacts on the body. Like, the birth control industry knows as much about birth control as the tobacco industry knew about tobacco. Okay, like, this is not like everyone's saying it's fine, and eventually it's going to come out and be like, oh my gosh, birth control causes cancer, stop taking it. Like, it's already a level 1 carcinogen. So it's not something, or level 2. It's a carcinogen. I don't remember, but it's something that just it's unnecessary. But it is not wrong to indefinitely delay pregnancy if there is a legitimate, like, grave reason, like birth control, or if the family is unemployed. Like, what can you do? Devoted bowling or sex just depends on whether you're TTA or TTC or TTW, just trying to whatever. Amanda, you're so sweet. I know that you would respond that way. Chicken pigeon, you strike out either way. Oh my gosh, that is a padoomch. All right, Jared asks, I do understand the Catholic Church's teaching on contraception and abortion, and it definitely makes sense to me. But what about times when it's necessary to use contraception when a woman gets raped? So it wouldn't be like, are you talking about like maybe plan B? Because contraception wouldn't be able to prevent that. But contraception or abortion when a woman gets raped, I mean, that could also be like, ask me anything about abortion. That could be another like topic here. And there are differing opinions on this. I think that I'm trying to remember. I don't want to speak out of turn. I have the catechism here. Hopefully it doesn't take me very long to look this up about abortion. Because personally, I mean, obviously it's a human being, but there are extenuating circumstances if the woman's life is in danger or if the woman has been raped. Like, there was a story that went viral it was a little while ago now, maybe a few months, but it was about a woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was pregnant. And so she needed to undergo chemotherapy. She already had 3 children, pregnant with her 4th, and she opted to not undergo the chemo, and she was gonna go through with having the baby first and then go through the chemo. Well, she died when the baby was 24 weeks gestation. And that obviously would have been an agreement that she and her husband made, that they accepted and, like, agreed upon with each other. But, like, it's a very personal decision at that point, I think. Like, it's actually interesting because 70% of people who are pro-life do believe that there should be the rare exceptions early on in the pregnancy, whether if a baby could be terminated for the rape or mother's life. But there are also so many stories of women or people in general who are like, my mom was raped and she still had me, or like, you know, I was raped and this is my daughter. And there are just so many different instances where that is. But as far as like what the catechism would actually teach, I want to say that there's actually, I'd have to look. It doesn't look like it states it here. So I don't know. I couldn't say exactly what the church teaches offhand on that one. I am planning on doing an abortion video soon, though. It has to do with seeds of a flower. Like, when is it a flower? Because if you plant a marigold seed, it's going to be a marigold. If you plant a tulip bulb, it's going to grow to be a tulip. Like, and then it starts sprouting. Like, at what point do you call it a tulip? You know, or what point do you call it a lily? If you can't see the flower, does it mean that it's not a lily? So that's a big part of what I want to focus on in one of my abortion videos coming up soon. But I would have to look into that one a little bit more. Black and blue. It is Tony, right? I haven't talked to you in a while. It's been a while. Sean, Jared, as far as I understand, the church expressly prohibits any use of contraception under all circumstances. Right. So, like, that's partly why I wanted to clarify, like, are you talking about contraception or abortion? And if you're talking about contraception, are you talking about the Plan B pill? Because I guess some people consider that contraception. And I think that there are just, you know, the Plan B, they weren't necessarily even pregnant in the first place. So they're putting their body under trauma and distress that doesn't even necessarily mean anything. Like, if they had sex were raped in either phase 1 or phase 3, like, they can't get pregnant because, well, they could get pregnant in phase 1 if it was late enough. But, like, in phase 3 after ovulation, like, there's no egg there to fertilize. So they literally couldn't get pregnant. So taking the Plan B pill in that situation is still really bad for the body and still really bad for the environment. So, yeah, it would take some time. Let's see. Yeah, Jared, and abortion to save a mother's life. Again, I'd have to look into that. Sean, I know you say that. I'm not sure exactly what the church teaching is on that. I would say probably they say everything. But, yeah, like I said, it's like 70% of people who are pro-life do agree that it should be a woman's choice if they've been raped or their life is in danger. And I'm pretty sure the church does teach that if the woman's life is in danger, that they do have that option. Like, if it's, you know, I don't know. I'm scared to give an official stance on that because I don't know what church teaching actually is. So, Supreme Crusader, your answer to my question makes so much sense. While I'm Protestant, I strangely agree with the Catholic Church in all things reproductive. No abortion in any case. I'm pro-NFP. Very good. I'm glad. Where can you find that study about the monkeys, Crunchy? If you have that link or have time to research it, that would be awesome. Sean, apologies for my clinical questions. In case you might have guessed, I'm a registered nurse by trade. Oh, I'm fine with clinical questions. I hope that I'm answering them accurately. Jokul says, the pesticide atrazine found in most city tap water has been shown to disrupt hormones in frogs. It literally turns frogs into hermaphrodite. Can't be healthy for humans. Exactly. And, yeah, it's an issue with frogs. It's an issue with fish. Like, there are so many aspects that just aren't good for anything. So you guys are kind of talking about the abortion deal. Val, yeah, I would agree with the piece of, like, if you were treating the mom with no intention of killing the fetus and her treatment indirectly ends the life of the fetus. I think that there would be more of a struggle if you know that your treatment is going to kill the fetus, the baby. Like, I just don't feel like it's black and white, and I'm not sure that the Catholic Church does teach it as black and white. I would have to look, though. You say the Catechism 2270 to 2272. Let me look. 2270. Human life protected, first moment of existence, before I formed you. The moral evil of every procured abortion. Yes, formal cooperation in abortion constitutes a grave offense. I would still have to look into it deeper because there are quite a few more there. I don't know right now. Sorry. So Crunchy Catholic, thank you. Lionel Tiger Depo-Provera study. Awesome. Yeah, so you guys can check that out. Blessed to be. What about vasectomies? It's not the hormone issue or abortive or physical barrier thoughts. You're knowledgeable. Well, thank you. The vasectomy is the same thing of, I love all of you, but not your fertility. Like, it's still withholding. It's interfering with natural science. Like, our bodies are inherently designed to be procreative. Like, it is, you can say God calls us to bear fruit, like, come together or not bear fruit, but like, I don't remember what Genesis says verbatim right now, but like he says to come for, like, to be fruitful and multiply. That's where the fruit is coming from, fruitful and multiply. And so you could say that, like, okay, it interferes with that, which it does, but I think that's a very basic, like, Jesus answer. And so, but the biggest thing with vasectomies is that, one, there are studies that show that if a man has a vasectomy, he is twice as likely to cheat on his wife, because that means that he cannot get another woman pregnant. There's less of a risk. Like, there is just a level of, like, infidelity that ends up taking place when a vasectomy occurs. So that's one thing, just to protect your marriage. I would say that men should not get vasectomies because it's just not good for the relationship. But also, there's no turning back. It's not leaving life in God's hands. It's not trusting God. You look at Sarah in the Old Testament, who didn't get pregnant till she was over 90 years old, and if the husband had a vasectomy, like, God can work through anything. Like, vasectomies are only something like, 99% effective. So there's still room for error. Like, people have still gotten pregnant after a vasectomy. But so it's just not, it's not allowing our bodies to be fully as God created them, and it's allowing a medical intervention to interfere with what his plan may be for our life, and putting the trust in medical and, like, not leaving that trust with him. So I hope that's enough. Sean, yeah, and I don't disagree. I need to look further, though, because I swear I've read stuff. I just can't speak on it right now. I might agree with you. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, but I've read too much stuff to be able to say, yes, this is what the church teaches. Like, I have to do independent research from that. Okay, let's see. It's 8:45. I'll probably go until 9 o'clock, so you guys can keep asking questions. I will try to get to as much as I can. So Chicken Pigeon, I really like your name, asks, can you explain a bit about husbands and wives not refusing sex with each other? What if one isn't in the mood? Well, we're called to respect each other. Like, it's not, Alec and I have had nights where I have wanted to have sex and he has not. And it has not ended well because I have a temper. And so, like, I end up sleeping downstairs and we fight and then I apologize and then we're fine. And, but that's not really the Catholic way. That's not really a holy way to deal with it, but I'm imperfect. I go to confession and I talk about it, and it doesn't happen often. It's happened maybe twice. But with refusing sex with each other, if someone's not in the mood, I mean, if someone like genuinely has a headache, like, okay, we're human. We're not sex machines. Neither the husband or the wife is a sexual object. Like, we're called to respect and uphold our inherent dignity. And if you force or like manipulate your spouse into having sex with you, that's rape. And rape is illicit in every situation. So we're still called to respect our spouse. And like, you know, and that's where the discussion is so important. Like being like, okay, we are trying to abstain right now. And like, you know, it's phase 3, we can have sex, but gosh, I'm not in the mood. Like, okay. And I think that there is like, if it gets to the point that it's a problem, I would say go see a Catholic priest or a Catholic counselor. Like, I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think that we don't know what we don't know. And there are counselors out there who have studied this explicitly and have so much knowledge on the subject that we just like don't know. And we don't know what we don't know. So I think that it's never a bad thing to go and seek more information from someone who's experienced and knowledgeable on the subject. So if it gets to a point where it's like every single time they're not in the mood and they never want to have sex and it's been 2 years and oh my gosh, like go see someone. Go talk to someone, please. It is not healthy for your marriage. Jess says, I did some research on ectopic pregnancies, and apparently the Catholic Church advises having the fallopian tube removed rather than taking the abortion pill. Well, who said that? I would have to read that because that doesn't seem right. Because either way, you're killing the baby, and by removing the fallopian tube, you are limiting your ability to get pregnant. So a lot of times they can go in and surgically remove the baby, and from what I've read, it's totally illicit to have the baby removed and then like not have to have the entire fallopian tube removed, because that's not like a super common thing that actually has to happen unless it's a ruptured fallopian tube, which in that case, like, you have to. But having a D&C when you've miscarried, or like, you know, I mean, I guess then the baby's already dead, but that's a life-threatening situation. I suppose that's one where when Sean was talking earlier, you know, like it's technically is an abortion because the baby is alive, but it is a life-threatening ordeal to the mother. And I would be interested, Jess, where that is, what link you read that from. Jared says the contraception part, I'm not sure. I guess plan B, but I'm just asking in general. Okay. So Bao says, yes, I agree. Not always black and white. I've seen individuals being upset for saying medical neutral procedure since it's the end. A life can end. Since a life can be ended. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to really like look into more. Like, this is really like an abortion conversation, which I didn't like. I prepped a little bit for this live stream to be able to answer more questions on NFB. So if I can do an abortion one, though, I think that'd be great. Ask me anything about abortion another time. So Thomas says there's no perfume in the world that can rival the new baby mother smell that gets in their clothing and air of day to mommy baby time. I don't even know what that smell smells like, but hopefully one day I will, and I do believe it. Crunchy talks about the side effects of vasectomies. I don't know them well enough. Is testosterone decreased? I'm not sure. Crunchy, talk about it in your video this week. Chicken Pigeon, it says your message was retracted. I'm not sure what you typed. I do have, what are they called? Filters on my comment. So if you type something, maybe just try rewording it and it could come through. Be fruitful and multiply. Yeah, exactly. Jared says, abortion thing, here's my concern. In Phoenix, and it's hot. But there was a former Catholic hospital named St. Joseph's Hospital and Medical Center. Devoted says the guy in the relationship refusing sex. It's actually a very common myth that men have a stronger sex drive. Like, women's sex drives are just as strong, and it can be the man that has the lower libido. And honestly, in our marriage, like, that is the case, and I am getting to be, like, fine with it. I wasn't okay with it in the beginning, but at this point, it's like, well, if he's not having sex with me, he's definitely not having sex with anyone else. So it's not always a bad thing. It gives me a sense of security, too. So, Maura, you say, I have to admit, for my husband and I, it has been really hard not to use contraception. Specifically for me, after 3 miscarriages, I'm scared to get pregnant again. Girl, I feel you. Like, I can't relate. Well, like, I can imagine, but I can't. Having 3 miscarriages, I had 1 in February, and, like, just the thought of getting pregnant is, you know, I mean, it's like we want to have a baby, so, like, we're praying for one still. But I just told my husband, it's like, if we get pregnant again and I lose another baby, I don't want another one. I don't want to try. I want to adopt. I want to be done. Like, I cannot go through this. Like, so I totally get it. Like, Maura, I hope that you're a part of that NFP Catholic style group. Some of the women there can definitely relate. I actually just saw a post in there today or yesterday about this specifically. Like, there was a girl who had 5 miscarriages and was talking about, like, getting pregnant again, and there was another one that was just talking about they are pregnant, they just got a positive, and they don't know how to handle these emotions. And there was just this huge thread on all these women offering what they did to get through that. So the NFP Catholic style, like, is really pretty broad. People post off-topic stuff all the time, and it's really helpful. It's been helpful for me. But yeah, it is hard, and I would just strongly recommend to take it in prayer, to, you know, go before our mother. Like, I try to think about her and how scared she must have been that she would have a miscarriage. Like, any fear, maybe she wouldn't have experienced fear, I don't know, but, like, I try to imagine her, like, having an angel come to me, tell me that I'm pregnant, I'm gonna have the Son of God, and all of a sudden I'm, like, ostracized from the community, and they all want to stone me because I haven't been with a husband, I'm supposed to be a virgin. And so, like, I go through all this stuff, and then Joseph says, I'm gonna stand by you, and then I'm, like, 12 weeks, and I'm like, am I going to lose this baby? Like, is all of this for nothing? And I try to put myself in those shoes, too, where it's like, God still brings things. But also, if you've been 3 miscarriages, if you've seen a NAPRO doctor or not, that would be my other question. Like, I know that sometimes it can be a bit of a drive. The closest one to me is an hour away, but they can check your levels of progesterone, of other things that are going on. Everyone's unique, but I would definitely recommend making the drive and going and seeing one and seeing if there's something that they can do to help you sustain a pregnancy. Because so many women have struggled, and, like, Eastern medicine or Western medicine will not acknowledge the value progesterone plays into sustaining a pregnancy. Like, there's a whole pregnancy chart with the Pope Paul VI Institute, and, like, Western doctors won't even take your progesterone level seriously unless it's below 5, which is already, like, what's the word? Inviable pregnancy. Like, it's already one that's like, well, this isn't going to make it. So they don't even pay attention to it unless you're going to lose the baby. But with the NAPRO technology, they monitor it, and it's actually a lot higher than what it would be, than, like, what the Western world would consider okay. So hopefully all that helps. You will be in my prayers. It's so difficult. I'm very sorry that you've had to go through that. Jared, the hospital had a situation where they had to perform an abortion to save a woman's life because she was pregnant and at the same time had pulmonary hypertension. If it was solely from pulmonary hypertension, high blood pressure, like, I would have gotten a second opinion, for sure. That is not uncommon for women to experience that in pregnancy, and there are ways to bring that down. So I don't know about that one, but there's a level of everything happens, and ignorance is bliss. Like, we're held accountable for the knowledge that we have. So, like, if the woman, And if the doctor himself legitimately thought that was the only way to save the person's life, like, God is going to hold us accountable for what we know and what we, like, expose ourselves to. So, Jess, I'm sorry that both of your messages have been retracted. I have a filter on, so just try rewording. And maybe if you're using questionable words. I'm surprised the one about rape even came through, honestly, because rape is not... People like to post bad comments about priests, so that word is one that is filtered out of comments. But yeah, so if you want to try to keep rewording that, I'm sorry. The herb Vitex really helps with your fertility and you get your mojo back. There you go. Crunchy, you are the best. I'm really looking forward to your NFP video, though, for real. I'm excited that you're doing one this week. Sean says ectopic pregnancies falls under the doctrine of double effect. Would still have to look into that. Jared says when the bishop found out, he decided to remove the status because of that act. Okay. I'm sorry, but I am going to be skipping anything else having to do with abortion because we only have 5 minutes left and I want to go here. Yeah. Devoted got it right. People are not asking me about NFP. That's right. I'm sorry. No more abortion stuff today. Chicken Pigeon, do I have any single friends? Actually, I don't have that many. A lot of my friends are not, but my husband has some single friends. I don't think that will interest you. William says your girlfriend has multiple sclerosis. I'm not familiar with that one. I know multiple sclerosis. Did you mean multiple sclerosis or is it multiple sclerosis? I don't know what that is. But her treatment is incompatible with conception, abortion, malformation. Yeah, and so with that, the biggest thing would just to be following a protocol, following NFP after you're married. And yeah, it is multiple sclerosis. I think. Nothing came up for sclerosis. So my mom actually has multiple sclerosis also, and she had 6 children, and she was diagnosed after she had all of them though. But yeah, the treatment for that, there are different ones. I don't know if she's taking the injections right now or if she's taking a pill form. But yeah, it would just be, praying to God, like God can work through anything, and just know that that's there. Just what you can do, you can't send a link. Oh, that's what you're trying to send. Okay. It might be blocking it as spam. So after I end the live stream, just put it in the standard chat box and I'll approve it from there. Hey, Paul, good to see you. It's been a while. Bao says, hope to be educated at NFP one day. Hard to introduce someone like my sister to NFP. It takes time. Blessed to be difference between saving a life. Okay. That is about ectopic and about abortion. For the dudes, clove essential oil improves libido. I'll put it in the diffuser tonight. No, just kidding. I'm not. It'll be too late. Okay, blessed to be. Would you personally completely abstain from sex if you had more miscarriages and decided to adopt? Maybe too personal. Not too personal, you're fine. No, I wouldn't decide to abstain from sex completely. We would just be careful and, follow a protocol that was consistent and reliable. The rhythm method is technically considered natural family planning, but that's just basing the fact saying I'm going to ovulate every single cycle on day 14. So we're going to avoid having sex from day 10 to day 17. And giving it a week window that you don't have sex. That's the rhythm method. And that is old and it is not scientifically proven. It is unreliable. You have a higher chance of getting pregnant on it. But there are other methods like Marquette and Creighton and different ones that people go by that are successful in postponing pregnancy. And if we were adopting, I think that we would just go back to trying to avoid. We would just decide that was the route that we were going to go. But completely abstaining from sex, I don't think so. We'd probably have sex a lot less, but there would still be an openness to life to say, God, I don't want another baby, but if you really want me to. It's like Jesus before the crucifixion. It's like, Lord, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done. You know, it's like, I don't want this, but if this is truly what you're calling me to, like, I am open to it. And so I wouldn't want to completely remove that life-giving act because of a selfish reason, because I wanted to protect myself from hurting. Like, I think that there is a level of peace that would be able to be found if we got to that point. Okay, final question. Mary just popped on here. Hi, John. Little doc. Quick run through of the different methods of NFP and how they are different. So there are several. I've talked about quite a few of them like throughout the video. The main ones that like come to mind, I don't have like a list in front of me, but the main ones that come to mind that people talk about the most are like the rhythm method, which is the most unreliable, which says you're going to ovulate on the same day every single cycle, so avoid sex for 4 days prior and 3 days after. There's the Creighton method, which talks about you only observe cervical mucus. So you wipe before you go to the bathroom, you look at it, you say, is there any, what's its consistency? You know, is it more of like an egg white? Is it just kind of watery? Is it like sticky? So you just kind of look at it, figure out the consistency. And so then you go to the bathroom and you check again after. And you have little stickers that you monitor that on. There is the symptothermal method that you check your basal body temperature every single morning at the exact same time. And that doesn't work very well postpartum. So you check that, and then you're also checking for cervical mucus. And so with the symptothermal, checking the basal body temperature, they also have the Marquette method, which is more people use in postpartum, and that one is more checking LH levels. Like you have an actual fertility monitor that helps you to track whether you're having like dry days or cervical mucus, or whether you're checking for the LH. And then there's Billings method that I'm actually not familiar with. I don't know how it's different. I just know that there are some people that practice it. It's not one that I have overtly familiarized myself with, but those are the ones that are the main ones, I think, that I think of. Marquette, Creighton, Billings, symptothermal, and the rhythm method are the main 5. And if I'm leaving any out, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, because those are the ones that get talked about the most in the NFP Catholic style group. So those are all the different ones. Jared, you're totally fine. It's really fine. I think it's an important discussion to have. I have put off making an abortion video that I've been thinking about for so long, and I think that it's just a little swift kick in the rear to say, get it done. So I will definitely be hopefully doing that soon and get the proper research in to be able to give like viable, reliable answers. So thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in and for being a part of this conversation. I really enjoyed your questions, and I really hope that it was helpful to any of the questions that you have. Please feel free to continue to comment down in the standard box, too, if there are further questions or you want clarification on anything that we talked about tonight. But we will see you again. I'm probably going to be back Thursday night for another live stream, so stay tuned on Facebook, Twitter. You can set a reminder. I will post the live event probably the day of. So just stay tuned, keep your eyes peeled, and we will talk to you soon. God bless. We'll see you later, alligator.